What if one of the most important numbers in medicine has been too high all along? For years, many people heard the same message: get your top blood pressure number under 140. Then the target moved lower, under 130. And now a new analysis is pushing the question even further. What if the real benefit shows up when that top number gets below 120? That sounds simple, almost like a technical adjustment, but it is not simple at all. Because the lower you push blood pressure, the more you can prevent heart attacks, strokes, and heart failure. But the lower you push it, the more you also risk dizziness, falls, kidney problems, low blood pressure episodes, and extra medication burden. So this is not really a story about a number. It is a story about a trade-off that affects millions of people, and maybe even you or someone close to you. And the new evidence suggests that, for the right patient, going lower may save more lives than many doctors once believed. This debate has been simmering for years. The reason is that blood pressure treatment has always lived in a gray zone between what looks good on paper and what actually happens in the real world. On one side, high blood pressure is one of the clearest drivers of heart disease and stroke. The higher the pressure inside the arteries, the more damage builds up over time. That part is not controversial. But on the other side, blood pressure medicine is not free, not financially, not physically, and not emotionally. Every extra pill adds something: fatigue, lightheadedness, more follow-up visits, more lab checks, more chances for a medication interaction. And for older adults especially, the fear is obvious. Push too hard, and now the patient who was protected from a stroke might end up fainting in the bathroom. That is why so many people settled into a middle ground. Low enough to help, not so low that treatment becomes the new problem. But then came one of the most important blood pressure trials in recent memory. The Systolic Blood Pressure Intervention Trial, often called SPRINT, showed that in high-risk adults without diabetes or prior stroke, aiming for a systolic pressure under 120 reduced major cardiovascular events compared with a target under 140. That got everyone's attention. But it also raised a practical question. Can results like that really hold up outside a tightly run study? And that is where this new research becomes so interesting. The new analysis, published in Annals of Internal Medicine and highlighted by Mass General Brigham, tried to answer the question that doctors quietly worry about every day. What happens when perfect trial conditions meet imperfect real life? The researchers used data from SPRINT, the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, and other published studies. Then they built models to compare lifetime outcomes under 3 different systolic blood pressure targets: under 120, under 130, and under 140. They were not just counting who had fewer heart attacks or strokes. They also looked at the harms of treatment: falls, kidney injury, low blood pressure, slow heart rate, more clinic visits, more medication use, more cost. And then they added one more thing that matters a lot more than most people realize: measurement error. That means they asked a brutally honest question. What if the blood pressure number you are treating is not as accurate as you think it is? Because in the real world, blood pressure is often measured under less than ideal conditions. The patient just walked in, they are talking, their back is not supported, their feet are not flat on the floor, the cuff may be the wrong size, the arm may not be at heart level. Sometimes only one reading is taken when guidelines call for repeated measurements and averaging. tiny mistakes can create a fake sense of urgency. And if the number is wrong, the treatment decision can be wrong too. So the new study did not just ask what target works best in theory. It asked what target still makes sense even when real life gets messy. Here is the part that stands out. Even after accounting for the fact that blood pressure readings in routine care are often imperfect, the model still found that targeting systolic blood pressure below 120 prevented more cardiovascular events than aiming for 130. More heart attacks avoided. More strokes avoided. More heart failure avoided. That alone is a big result. But the part that really gives this study teeth is that the lower target still appeared to be cost-effective under typical conditions. In plain English, the added benefit was large enough to justify the extra cost and extra effort for many high-risk patients. That does not mean it was free of downside. It was not. The more intensive target increased side effects and increased healthcare use. That matters a lot. But when the researchers looked at the balance over a lifetime, the lower target often still came out ahead. That pushes back against a very common assumption. The assumption is that once measurement gets messy in everyday clinics, the aggressive target stops making sense. This study says not so fast. Even with routine error, lower may still be better than we thought. This may be the most practical part of the whole story. People often think of blood pressure like body temperature, a clean number, a stable fact. But blood pressure is more slippery than that. It changes with stress, conversation, posture, bladder fullness, recent caffeine, recent exercise, even whether your arm is supported correctly. Guidelines for accurate measurement call for sitting quietly for several minutes, using the right cuff size, keeping the back supported, feet flat on the floor, arm at heart level, and avoiding talking during the reading. That sounds basic, but think about how often that actually happens in a busy office. Now imagine the consequences. A reading that runs falsely high can lead to another pill. Another pill can lead to dizziness. Dizziness can lead to a fall. So a measurement shortcut at the start can ripple into a very real clinical problem later. And yet the opposite is also true. If we overreact to measurement error and become too cautious, we may leave real cardiovascular risk untreated. That can mean the stroke we might have prevented never gets prevented. That is why this conversation matters. The study is not saying chase low numbers blindly. It is saying do not use imperfect measurement as an automatic excuse to avoid intensive treatment in patients who are likely to benefit. That is a very different message. This is where nuance matters. The research does not mean every person with high blood pressure should suddenly rush to get below 120. The patient population behind this conversation is mainly high cardiovascular risk adults, especially those similar to the patients studied in SPRINT. That trial excluded some groups, including people with diabetes and prior stroke, so you cannot simply assume the same answer fits everyone. And even within the right group, personal context matters. How old is the patient? How steady are they on their feet? How many medications are they already taking? Do they have symptoms when pressure runs lower? What does kidney function look like? How reliable are the blood pressure readings being used to make decisions? This is where medicine stops being a math problem and becomes judgment. A healthier, high-risk patient may gain a lot from intensive control. A frail patient with recurrent falls may not. A patient with careful home readings and good follow-through may be a better candidate than someone whose numbers are based on rushed office checks and inconsistent medication use. So the big takeaway is not that 120 is now the only acceptable goal. It is that the ceiling for ambition may be lower than many people assumed. There is a deeper lesson here, and it goes beyond hypertension. Medicine often swings between two mistakes. One is therapeutic inertia. We know risk is there, but we hesitate, delay, and settle for almost good enough. The other is overconfidence. We chase a target too hard, forget the person behind the number, and cause harm in the process. This new research is interesting because it refuses both extremes. It says yes, intensive treatment has real risks, but it also says yes, those risks may still be worth it more often than we thought, even when the real world is messy and measurements are not perfect. That is a surprisingly balanced conclusion. Not lower for everyone, not lower for no one. Lower for the right patient, measured the right way, with eyes open to both the benefit and the cost. And honestly, that may be the most useful kind of medical progress. Not a flashy miracle, just a clearer answer to a hard question doctors and patients face every day. Here is the cleanest answer. Probably lower than many people used to think, but not casually, not carelessly, and not without context. If someone is at high cardiovascular risk, a systolic target below 120 may offer more protection against heart attack, stroke, and heart failure than a higher target. And it may still be a reasonable value even after you account for real-world measurement mistakes. That is the headline. But the fine print matters just as much. Before changing treatment, make sure the number is real. Measure it correctly. Repeat it. Average it. Use home readings when appropriate. Look at the patient, not just the pressure. Because one of the biggest messages in this whole story is that better decisions do not start with better pills. They start with better measurements. And maybe that is the real twist. The future of blood pressure treatment may not depend only on how low we aim. It may depend on how honest we are about the number we are aiming at.